all, thank you for coming. Thank you for bearing with us. And it's the 15th episode of the Meet and Greet and the 6th episode of CarTalk. I was quite frankly a bit afraid to host something today because of yesterday's elections. But apparently, as long as we are not doing anything to do with any of the parties, they are fine. So it's good to see you all. Thank you so much for coming. Before starting off, I'd like to mention a few things. Yesterday and the day before, I got a few calls. A couple of people called me and asked, "Machan car ka garage ke, machan car ka nae, aawata kaman nadda." So remember, I always tell this: Limitless is about you. It's not about the car. It's about you and your car. The cars don't drive themselves to our meet. We're not here to promote the cars. We are here to promote everything else you have done with your car and how much you love your car. Even if you get into a bus, even if you give me a call and say, "Machan mas daam palayang," I will always give you a lift. Please come to the meets. Share the love, share the passion, meet the people, and live your dream. You don't really have to. Next time you come back, you'll come back in your car. Someday you'll come in your car. But until that time, come for the meets. There is no such thing that I don't have a car, I can't come. None of that. None of that here. So that's one message that I want to make very clear. Today we are not hosting anybody, but instead we thought we will speak to you a bit more about how to upgrade your car. If you remember about 3-4 episodes back, I spoke about how to upgrade your brakes. Today I will speak to you a bit about how to upgrade your suspension. Now, suspension is as equally important as the brakes, and the most important message I want to get across is leave the engine to the last. The minute we get a car, the first thing we do is we talk about machan this swap, that swap, K20, B series, R series, May series, EJ50, EJ20. No, leave the engine for the last, because that is dangerous. You're going to end up, with a lot of legal issues and things like that. There are so much more you can do with your car before you touch the engine. So much power you can put on the road that you're losing with the flex of your suspension. To make a few basic points to start off with, I'll do a basic introduction, and we have Mr. Imran here, who is much more experienced than I am about this field, so he will add the very technical points. Most of you want to lower your car, or as they say, stance your car. Now remember, when stancing or when lowering your car, most of us go and buy lowering springs and match them with the stock shock absorbers or the dampers. The stock shocks are not meant to take the flex of stiffer, lower springs. So you're going to end up with a much stiffer spring and a car that is undrivable. I know this because I have done this myself and I have learned the hard way. You can't drive the ar. You can park it at home, it looks very nice on pictures, but so if you don't actually drive your car and you don't have a budget for coilovers, if you're going for lowering springs, remember, you'll have to invest in equal strength dampers as well. Imran, you want to add a bit more to this?
Yeah, so starting with springs, let's say most of the clients that I come across are either budgeted for a lowering look, or either they can go full on for a set. So what they say is, let's say certain brands have stiffer springs. So on your OEM stock factory absorbers, struts, you can't just go into a store or order online, put whatever you want. There's something called spring rate, and then there's something called a traveling distance between spring rate. So sometimes it goes as 6 kg, 6.5 kg, 7 kg. You can customize the way you want according to the weight of your car. So if you are driving a V6 3 liter, there is no point you putting a 6 kg spring or a 7 kg spring. You need to make it a little bit stiffer so that it can hold the weight of the car and the engine. If you are driving a 1.5 Civic or a Scarlet GT or like an ES or a normal CK or whatever, if you want a lower look, no point going for 8 kg, 9 kg spring, because with a 2-inch lowering ride height, because it will just drop the car down, make it even more stiffer, and then wear and tear, because it becomes negative. Your camber becomes really negative because it's lower, so you will see your tire, the inner of your tire wearing. So you don't actually need it for it to be that stiffer, because you might not use a coilover, but that spring itself is more than enough for you to waste whatever the other components which are needed to be operated to run your suspension system reliably. So you always need to check if your stock CK1 is running 5 kg in front and 4 kg at the back. maximum you can go is 6 or 6.5 kg front and 5 or 5.5 for the back, because there is no weight at the back, right? And if it's a coilover, no matter whatever coilover you buy, example if it's an Evo, right? Street spec is always 10 to 15% stiffer and handles better than your standard suspension. But if just because you go and install an aftermarket coilover, it will not automatically start handling itself. You need to adjust your damper settings. You need to so if it's a fully adjustable kit, you get ride height and body height, right? Where the lower mount of the suspension also can be adjusted, right? And then you can also adjust from the spring itself. So technically you always adjust from the lower mount of the suspension. And then you drive it around, drive it for about a minute, see how it feels. If you're not happy, you adjust it to the springs, play along with the damper settings, and then there are damping steps. Some suspension have from 1 to 20 damping steps, some 1 to 25, 1 to 32, like that. So all that matters a lot when it comes to ride, comfort, stability and durability. And here our road conditions are amazing, so you need to look into that also, and then adjust your settings as per our road condition also. Just because the car is fully lowered doesn't mean it will handle better, give you good performance and very comfortable. So always when you are trying to upgrade, find out, it's always better to find out what your stock factory specs are on springs. Normally you will find it online, but stock factory sites don't give you what the spring rates and the travel rate is, right? And then if it's a track day thing, you need to go to a professional and get your corner balance and corner weight properly sorted. So all that takes a little time. Installing a suspension doesn't take more than 2-3 hours. 2 hours maybe if the workshop that you're giving is really efficient. But setting it up is the crucial part. It's not rocket science. It can be done. It's not easy, but you need to know what you're buying. You need to know what you need. You need to drive daily, or if it's a weekend car, or if it's a high horsepower car. If it's a high horsepower car, you need to think more beyond a street suspension. And then also, when you're buying a suspension kit, on most of the cars, there are two types of suspension. One is called McPherson strut, one is called the wishbone type. Wishbone type is what you will see mostly on Hondas, very common in Honda and certain BMW. You will see upper arm, lower arm, right? Which gets wasted pretty fast. And when you lower it without any camber adjustment, the bushels start to wear out because it just expands itself. So if you need to do a proper job, you need to buy adjustable camber arm. But with the McPherson suspension kit, you don't need to do that, because most of the camber adjustments are on the top pillow ball mount. You see left, right, center, negative, plus, minus. That is how you get your camber angle. Again, you need to do that in a way where you don't have much wear and tear on tires, because when you do that a lot, we have a friend smiling at me right now who is going through the current problem now as I speak. So you need to know that. So you need to know what your car suspension type is. Is it McPherson suspension type or is it a wishbone type? Sorry for the Honda boys, you will have to invest on all camber arms. Otherwise,
Hondas are fixed camber.
Fixed camber. So you need to get brands. There are plenty of brands available, which will, when you go to an alignment center, which will, even after you lower it, possibilities it goes minus like crazy. So even if you install camber adjustment kits, so you can have your caster and camber, all that to back to closer to stock position. It won't be 100%, but it will actually save a lot of components which is operated around supporting your suspension part. Any questions?
Before we actually get to questions, a few things I'd like to add from personal experience. Remember, when you adjust the suspension of your car, or when you replace with aftermarket springs or with coilovers, you lose out on ride comfort. If you give one and you take the other, there has to be a balance between the two. Your car will definitely become stiffer. It will handle better, it will corner better. But your significant other, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend in the seat is not gonna be happy. So that is something that you have to deal with. Remember that is a compromise that you have to make. Remember to always get your wheel alignment check. Like you rightfully said, your camber, your caster and your toe, all three things will be off, and you have to make plans to change those things also. Thirdly, when your suspension is stiffer, the softest point then become in the linkages, then become your rubber bushings, and your bushings are all eventually going to break if you don't replace them with stiffer bushings. So this is also making your car that much stiffer. Another one last thing I'd like to touch on a little bit before we wrap up on this for the day is, you all have, I mean, most of you all have strut bars, upper, these front power struts, front lower struts, rear power struts. What do these strut bars do and what are they for? See, cars without strut bars, they are meant for comfort. So when you take turns, your car will walk to the left and the right, and you have a boat-like feeling, and your two suspension pillars move from one end to the other. Body roll, that's it. That's it. So body roll is there to make the ride more comfortable, but also it throws the car away from the center of the corner. So you tend to move away from the corner, and hence you get understeer or snap oversteer. Either of these can happen when you are going very fast in a car that jaws like a yacht. So to cut that down, you can connect the upper pillar and the lower pillar of your suspension with what we use as with strut bars. So this is why we use strut bars. Strut bars makes the handling and the body roll that much less, and your handling that much better. If you install proper strut bars, in the right amount of strut bars in the right place, and you have the right suspension, you can get a lot more power out of that same car. The car will handle it will be so much faster in the corners. You don't need a faster engine. You already made your car that much faster around the corners, and you've got that advantage. So remember, when you're doing your suspension, remember these points that we both spoke about. And if you all have any questions, you can either ask it now or get in touch with us. We are always there to help you. Help is free, advice is free, and as I like always say, the mental methanol is free. But afterwards, we are going to end up with you having a huge bill to put for your cars at the end of the day.